Hey, this is Notser, and I'm going to share my recommended commander builds with all of you. This is updated as of 10.0, and this is going to be for every class. And it's just going to be a general overview of the idea. You might be surprised by the style of play that I choose in most instances. So let's just get into a couple. So first, I am a really big fan of my Des Moines. Love that recall feature. And obviously, heavy cruiser. This is a very potent heavy cruiser build that I have enjoyed a lot of success with. Obviously, let's go line by line so you guys have a better understanding. Grease the gears, faster turret traverse, 1 point. It's amazing, honestly, for a brawler because you will get close and you will need that extra speed to compensate for that so that you can be as deadly as you really are. Gun feeder, just be aggressive with switching HE AP. You want to keep your opponent off balanced, and by firing HE or AP, the optimal shell, you really force them to not really have a good out, and it really shines. And it's a continuation of my previous design. Where we differ before is incoming fire. Now, incoming fire is a really good skill that works really well for what it is. And what it is it merely is giving you an instantaneous warning that a shell is incoming or a salvo has been fired. And this is really helpful because it sort of bypasses whether the terrain is blocking or whether you are just not having a good connection. This shows an instantaneous. You don't have to watch the animation of a battleship firing at 20 kilometers. And what you can do with that information is you can actively dodge. So what I really like to do is whenever I see incoming fire alert on screen, I will instantly drop my speed to 0 and I will active either hard to port or hard to starboard. That cuts the speed and moves your ship in a different position than the player would have set up their shot for. And it works incredibly well right now with all the Deadeye players and all the extra range. I can't recommend this enough in this type of meta with the distances that they're playing at. It really makes it very interesting. Next up, we've got priority target. Now, I don't know that I'll keep priority target because, honestly, incoming fire gives me a lot of what I wanted from priority target, but it is helpful information to know how many people are targeting you. You can glean some DD in the area. Expert AA marksman. I take every AA skill on my cruisers. This one is really good. 25% on priority sector is a significant jump. Plus, you get an extra flak burst, and extra flak burst means there's less chance that the enemy can fly through it without taking damage. A drone rush. This is an A+ skill. Yes, it's more expensive, as is priority, but it's an amazing skill. Superintendent. One of the few skills that kept the same name. Obviously, drone rush here, but superintendent as well. And once again, it's great. You'll notice I'm not taking any offensive skills. I find that you take offensive skills in an offensive meta, you're going to die really quickly, and you aren't going to live long enough to rack up the amount of damage that really is required to win games. Concealment expert, it's great. And then that AA skill, the AA gunner, 20% continuous, 20% black burst. And I'm using defensive AA. There are times where a tier 10 aircraft carrier loses his entire squadron on approach, and he's probably flabbergasted, but it's potent. This is, obviously cruisers lost preventative maintenance, rest in peace, but they gained more reliable AA skills so they can actually defend themselves. And I really like screwing with aircraft carriers. It's nice to be able to play some of these more extreme examples, and we'll get there, like the Worcester, and just level everything. And I don't think that any other class can do that other than some of these really high AA cruisers. But, you know, the Des Moines is supposed to be able to do that. And one of the weaknesses of the Des Moines is air, so this kind of limits that weakness, I find. So I'm really enjoying this build. I've had a lot of great success, a lot of 200,000 games easily, and in games with aircraft carriers, you know, bad matchups, historically, I'm shining, and I can take on all comers. So I'm really enjoying it. Now, we talked about a heavy cruiser, let's go light cruiser. Now, my light cruiser is a little bit similar. It's a lot similar. But I also wanted to show you something that I was considering. And instead of using priority target, I use consumable enhancement. Consumable enhancement's actually pretty nice. Surveillance radar, obviously. It's especially nice for this. But this is a 19-point commander. I wanted to show you what my build might look like with my 19 versus a 21. So we don't have grease the gear, partially because this doesn't really need it. We don't have gun feeder. And I'm not saying that either one of these, honestly, I would take them over Last Stand. I think Last Stand is, you know, it's a good skill, but it's not really a skill that I personally want to rely too much on as a light cruiser. You really want to be island hopping and not out in the open, taking tons and tons of fire. You'll get sniped out, and it don't matter how good you're dodging. If there's 5 battleships firing at you with Deadeye, you're dead. But incoming fire is great. And that's the first point I would take. The next point, probably AA, because let's face it, there's a lot of aircraft carriers out there. Then adrenaline rush, concealment, the other AA skill, come back down, get superintendent. Especially with this particular build on my Wooster, I will have a video exploring this more, but this is a commander build, and then finally consumable. And that's a nice 19. As far as cruisers, it makes you reliable, it makes you protected. I just don't believe in damage builds in a damage meta. I don't believe in damage builds, period, when we're talking about minutes of engagement. If it was seconds, that might be different. And yeah, it can be seconds. But if you play well, you can extend it out to be a real slugfest. And the damage defense, the reliability of always being on, stands up to the situational activatables, in my opinion. Plus, a lot of the situational activatables still have a downside. So it's nice to have a skill that doesn't have a downside, as pretty much all the defenses have, because the downside is taking it over a offensive skill. So, you know, I like it. I like it a lot. One other build that stands out as a build that I just can't recommend more is my Khabarovsk build. This is it. This feels like this is the every DD build for me. I believe strongly in DDs versus DD. That means they have to be exceptional gunboats. And that's what we do here. This is my gunboat build. My every DD save for Kaba. And Kaba is like an extreme gunboat, and I'll get to that. But between incoming fire and preventative maintenance, it's really up to you. Especially for the Khabarovsk, you can actively dodge at, you know, near max range. Get that Thunderer fire his 8 HE shells at you. Oh, whoops. I actually want to turn left and stop and have them just pass harmlessly past you. It's such a sight to behold. So I think incoming fire is going to give you more mitigation potential than preventative, but preventative is obviously really nice too. Then Last Stand, tried it without it. You got to take Last Stand. Survivability expert, of course. Concealment, of course. Relocation, of course. This is pretty much on every DD of every tier that I play, because every single one of these skills makes you better. Even a drone rush. There's no reason not to take this on a DD. It helps literally every part of your ship, save for secondaries, but it's a great skill. Reason for no superintendent. I play for short to mid. I don't play the long game. Superintendent is more for 12 to 20. I'm more focusing on the first minute to probably 12, actually. 10 minutes, you know, 1 to 10. I want to be able to get 2-3 kills and then overwhelm them with superior numbers. I don't want to rely on outlasting. I don't think outlasting wins games. Just my opinion. And then we've got, obviously, Radiolocation. Radiolocation's amazing. This lets you be the hunter that every DD should be, considering your stealth. Submarines will be this as well. They just have information that no one else has. And Radiolocation is amazing. Main battery AA. This is gun reload. This is AA protection. It's bread and butter. This is what you need. Why take that over Superintendent, or why take that over Fill the Tubes? Because I want to be able to kill targets and defend myself from air. Two things that are important for every match, pretty much. And two things that, honestly, you can't get enough of it in a DD. And this is my Kleber. We're not talking about the equipment right now, but this is reliable. This is obviously, it stands the test of time. Look at how many ships I'm putting it on. Look at how, I think it's on my gearing. Be embarrassing if it isn't. But here's an example of, potentially slightly different Fill the Tubes versus this. I'm not really a fan of the torpedo skills. They don't really give me enough. Swift and Silence, it's nice, but it has a downside. I don't want a downside. I don't want to spend 4 points for a downside. The main battery AA expert, firing range, that's kind of overrated for DDs. Unless you're trying to get max range, but a lot of DDs can't use it. Fearless Brawler. Now, let's get over to the Fearless Brawler example. This, the Kaba. Love my Kaba. Absolutely adore my Kaba. This is a Kaba build. Easily doing 150,000 damage per game. Or nearly. Oh, easily over 120. Let's just say 120. This is the highest damage output I've ever seen in this thing. You need Fearless Brawler, and you need to be spotted for it to be acted. But it's an easy thing because it's a UI element built into the game. So of all the activatables, Dazzle is awful, by the way. This kind of has its built-in UI element that you don't have to concern yourself with being inaccurate. So you know when you're benefiting from this 100% of the time, and it's awesome. Yeah, it screws up with your ship detectability, but it gives you an AA salvo, which is nice, and it also gives you 10% reload boost, which is amazing, on top of this, on top of this, on top of the, 3 skills that boost your reload on top of equipment. It gets pretty ridiculous. This is really, really awesome, and this is probably the Kaba build that's you're going to start seeing Kabas show up more and more because people want to play them, and he's actually good now, better. Obviously, detections are awful. You need some reliable concealed DD to go along with the Kaba. The Kaba is basically a light cruiser with no Citadel, which is still really good. But this is the build that I think everyone's going to gravitate towards because this actually is good. It doesn't have any useless skills like Dazzle. Yes, Radiolocation, rest in peace. I do miss you, but we're always spotted. We're not really doing that kind of thing, and we kind of need a second person to spot for us. Sometimes going in and ambushing a DD, but man, can we ambush a DD so good. Plus, you need the gun range, obviously. So that's pretty much my DDs. Yep, that's it. You want to see my Holland? My small end? Oh, look, it's this build. Because it works. It's reliable. It works every single time. And it's going to give you the best chance to win if you're playing anywhere close to my playstyle, where I'm, actively maneuvering, using the information to make my best choice. The one that I have the most advantage over in whatever matchup. I'm not looking here to break damage records. Okay? That's not my goal. My goal is to seek and destroy and do it any way possible. And this is what DDs do. They seek and destroy any way possible. And this is the most reliable build I've run across, and I love every skill. So, let's go over, I think my Minotaur. Yeah, my Minotaur. This is kind of the Minotaur that, yeah, I believe pretty strongly in this build for light cruisers. I think light cruisers are back. Their AA is actually pretty exceptional. Really, really happy with it. Montana. Love my Monty. What is this? I do not recommend Deadeye. Now, the reason I don't recommend Deadeye is not because it's not a great skill, because it is a great skill. It's because I am trying to perform a role, and for me, the Battleship is the tank. I love playing a tank. That's my World of Warcraft main. So I'm drawn to that archetype way more than the sniper role. Snipers, squishy little agile bugs in the back. You know what? I'm just going to charge in, stun you, and I'm going to kick you in the, you know, whatever, the steering gear, tailpipe, whatever. But I just like being a tank. So I have chosen all the tank skills, and they're all really good. They all work very well, and I would not feel, you know, disappointed at all in any of them. I also take preventative maintenance. That's really helpful for incapacitation protection. One of the key bits of tanking is being able to return fire. So you need to consider to take this. I've heard people not think it's a good skill for battleships. It's a very good skill for battleships. It's probably better than DDs because, let's face it, incapacitating a battleship gun is way more annoying and you take way more fire on average. Incoming fire alert. Same principle. Actively dodge. When you see this alert on your screen, you will throw off the shot, and depending on the range, nearly 100% of the time. Fast turret traverse. You got to take on a battleship to be able to be reliable, and that's my number one. So for me, it's a toss-up between these. If you're speccing preventative, grease the gears, adrenaline rush, and then concealment, emergency repair expert, fire prevention, whatever you feel like you're most vulnerable to, take that first, and then eventually take all of these. And then the final skill, AA gunner. Now, I used to take priority target, but I'm trying my best to rely on incoming fire for all the necessary information, and just doing sort of like crazy Ivans every so often, where I just do random maneuvers when I feel vulnerable. And I usually feel vulnerable, you know, quite frequently sometimes in a battleship. But regardless, it's worked out really well. And having that extra AA boost, not a lot, it just wears on the AA. And I think eventually people are going to realize that, yeah, light cruisers are really good. Heavy cruisers, really good. Some of the DDs not really gain much power, honestly, in AA. But the cruisers did. And some of the battleships might go that direction. Plus, it's one of the best AA battleships in the game. Might as well enhance that feature. Deadeye's a good skill, but it's not a good skill for what I want out of my battleship. You know, one battleship per team as a sniper is okay, not all battleships, and that's where it kind of breaks on me. There's no activatable on screen, so you don't know exactly when it's on, when it's off, when it's on that line. I would really like something UI element. That's why the incoming fire alert's really nice. It's a UI element that you can rely on. I hate my secondaries. I hate them. I don't even play secondary on my German battleship. I think they're dead right now. I would not recommend this. It's too expensive. And it's not reliable. And you don't have any defense. And defense is really, really in short supply. Battleship's got an increase in damage output from range. Cruiser's got a damage output boost in from range. DD's got a damage output. And all these players are going damage because damage is sexy. But support and tanks know who actually win games. And that's all I'm going to say. Megatron's laughing for me. So yeah, tank. And I think it hurts to not play secondaries. It really hurts. And I'm just so disgusted. Now, you might be wondering, you know, what would you go as a battleship for 19? Well, I would drop priority because I'm already doing that as a player, evolving my play. And I would just not pick this up. And I would go preventative. I would go grease the gears. I would go drilling or preventative versus incoming. It's, you know, whatever. And then tank skills. It's reliable, and I don't see any reason to change it. This is the same build I use on my super cruisers too. Let's see, aircraft carriers. So this is kind of my catch-all aircraft carrier build. It's enhancing the protection from damage, and it's making torpedoes incredibly reliable. Torpedoes will get you so much damage, and it's really hard to avoid a lot of it if you min-max it. I know, carrier, oh my god. Do you see my builds? I'm trying to shoot them down as fast as possible, guys. So, aircraft restoration is a great skill. Improve engine boost, great skill. You've got squadron speed, great skill. Obviously, a protection reduction, great skill. We've got HP increase, which is effectively doing the same thing. Another great skill. Enhance aircraft armor. This protects you from flak. This is something that you need. Believe me, flak is going up. People are learning. You just need to protect yourself from it. Now, that's sort of the you take it with everything sort of build. I've tried interceptors, not impressed at all. They need to work better. Some of the early ones are pretty cool. Search and destroy. Hidden menace is awful. Don't take it. It's not concealment. It is actually a different skill that is garbage. The speed of return is really bad. You basically will lose your whole squadron when you recall it over a ship. So good luck with that. AA, obviously for Germans if you want to go that way. Torpedo protection, which would work really well with this. Obviously, if you want to be super aggressive, you could probably just take that right there. And then, you know, something else that they have, bomber flight control. Yeah, you know, that's okay, but I just don't know. I think that 10% arming distance and torpedo speed basically make these do a ton of damage against a lot of different targets, and they are on every ship, and it works well, and a lot of torpedo damage is pretty much encouraged. Yeah, and a lot of players feel this is the most fair tactic, whatever that means. They're flying over the U to kill you, however fair that can be. But the perception is that you have a better chance at avoiding torpedoes. And that might be true. But you still have to avoid the torpedo. So that might set you up for punishment from someone else, but obviously you're allowing them to do that. We have secondary armament for secondary builds. This increases your consumable charge and repair. It's really only helpful for torpedoes, so another torpedo skill. We'll probably see this explore more. Direction center fighter, extra fighter, whatever. Engine techie, this is pretty cool. And also last gas. This would be cooler if the game wasn't the way it is. If it sort of worked in reverse, I would be more on board. But the interceptor ones, they just don't. You give up a lot. Not being able to spot hostile ships is a huge, it's a huge downside. Basically means this has to work every single time to get the value. I don't think that's true. Yeah, enhanced reaction. This is all sort of built into one build. Can't recommend interceptor build yet. Just not quite there. It's getting there, but I think they need more time. What other builds would I want to show you or talk about? Yeah, we could have this discussion about IFHE. I don't like IFHE because it impacts different matchups plus or minus. So it's sort of, instead of making you better across the board, it says you will sacrifice these matchups for these. And I always like thinking about the matchup as, do I have an advantage against this target? You know, DD versus Battleship. Obviously, DD has an advantage against that Battleship. If I have an advantage against it, why would I want to hurt any part of the relationship there? Why would I want to increase it further? I'm already going to win. Why would I want to make a different matchup harder for me? I don't want to do that. So inertia fuse, high explosive on something like the Harugumo, where it's going to push your penetration above 32 millimeters. That's great. But it already starts at 30. Isn't 30 millimeters perfect for pretty much every DD, every cruiser, save for the 50 millimeter? Yeah, that's a great amount. You're only passing up the bow and stern and sort of small sections on battleships. how reliable you can be at hitting those parts, you know, it remains to be up for debate, right? You also have a shell type AP that benefits nothing from taking that skill. So literally when you're firing AP, you can just say 3 points of value just being shot out because you're not getting anything from it. It's just throwing it away. So I just think that it's better to have skills that work more universally, and IFHE is just one of those skills that I just don't like on anything. Yeah, some of these skills, you know, Liquidator is an interesting one, but I don't think that there's enough points available in a DD to take some of these skills. Because as you can see with my DD, and we're getting in a DD discussion just real fast. As you can see, it's pretty much full. There's not a lot of space here. And I will absolutely take a skill that gives me new information that is accurate over anything else in the game. It is an amazing thing to have that. And that's pretty much what you're asking players to choose from. Do you want to have damage or do you want to have information? Those are the things that you can choose to min-max your ship from. You know, Swift and Silence, I'm sure it's good, but there's no available points. Dazzle, I'm sure it's garbage. There's no available points. Fearless Brawler is really cool, but it doesn't help anyone who's not trying to be stealth, and it hurts you. Main Battery AA Expert, gun range, not really helpful. It is the only AA skill left that you could possibly take over here. And it's also attached to something that's kind of bad for most DDs, because it does increase the chance of being detected. So there's a lot of skills that ask you to make compromises. And I just don't like making too many compromises when I have the knowledge of how to make the ship good. You can use what the ship is good with, you know, like AP shells on a Z52 and hydroacoustic. Then you don't have to outdamage something in an optimal scenario for both parties. You want to always approach a situation and have the advantage. And if you have the advantage, playing defensive and intelligent is going to allow you to get out of that engagement and go to the next target and continue that whole process. And it'll allow you to potentially avoid damage while being engaged with this person. So I think that of all the builds that you've seen, that is the goal of every single one, is to make your ship more resilient and improve the information that is provided to the player base. And I think it works really well, and I hope that you guys try these builds out. Tell me what you think in the comments, of course. And this has just been me talking about this as I think of new builds and as the whole meta shifts and changes with updates and stuff. We'll see what happens. But as of right now, those are all the builds that I have been using, and I've been using it to really great success. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to check out more of my content, or you like this, please like. If you didn't, dislike. You could subscribe to my channel. We do World of Warship videos, first impression how-to news. My recruitment for North America is on screen. I stream at twitch.tv/Notser. Thank you, have a wonderful day, and I will catch you guys next time.